Hey everyone. So thank you for being here today. I am so excited to join you once again, and hopefully, as we come in, you'll get to hear me talk about some of the things that we can actually do to get ourselves prepared as we venture out into relocating from one place to the next. So, if there is one thing that I've learned over time, is to always be ready as we relocate from one place to the next. So I've just got like 10 or maybe a little bit more, 12 tips. I won't be here long today. But just to reiterate that I am here because I'm planning to relocate to Guyana, and I want to, and in the process of getting everything ready, I am going through this phase of narration as well as just literally putting everything together and sharing my journey with you so that you can take that journey yourself when that time comes. My journey isn't for the next 4 years to Guyana, but God's willing, of course. Everything depends on Him. Definitely, as I said before, I'm putting everything in place. So I'm excited to be able to share everything with you as always. And so today I've got some tips that I wanted to share with you. And I hope that everyone that joins in now or later will learn from something from what it is that I'm sharing and be able to adapt or implement some of these things to help them navigate the moving process much more easily. So thank you once again. So I'm Donette, and welcome to my life. The first thing I want to do is to encourage you and to remind you that you must know that you want to live in the place that you're seeking out. That means that you've got to be all in. Don't, it's not a something that you can barter or, that you go back and forth about. Make sure that it's something that you really want to do and that you're giving it your all and that it's a place that you can live and you can adapt to. Do not go if you don't like it. Like you have to love it, you have to want to be there, you have to want to adapt to the environment, and you have to be open to that environment. So do not go unless you're totally in love with this space. So that's my number one tip. My number two tip is that you need to know that you can adapt to the lifestyle or also that you can sustain yourself. That means business. If you are going to work or if you're going to open a small business like I am, like I said before, if you are going to consider finding a job in the new location for, most of us who are relocating back to our countries because we have both I guess I would say citizenship for both the United States or Canada or Europe someplace, and you have that Guyanese, citizenship as well because you were born there. That means basically you're allowed to work in that country still, right? So I know in other countries, if you go to places like even the Bahamas to live there and you don't belong there, you cannot work in that country. I don't know if that's true for Guyana, but there are a lot of places like that. You can go live there, you can open a business there, you can even buy a home there, but you cannot work in that country legally. And they will not allow you, give you the kind of paperwork that will allow you to work. So it's not even a, unless you're going in, for those of us who are going to other countries that may want to live and work in those countries, that's not an option for so many countries. So you have to do your research and make sure that, either if you're not going in for business and you tell yourself you can go in there and work, you need to do your research and make sure that you can. Most countries, even a professor friend of mine, who's she was working in Europe last past couple of summers, and the only reason she was able to work in Europe is because her husband is European. She's Hispanic, but her husband is European, So she was able to get her papers in order to work there, because I was interested in how she was doing it, and I asked her, and she told me that she got her papers to work there through her husband because he's European. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me, to do the investigation to find out exactly what it is that you need in order to take that next step, before you plunge into a place that you're not even sure how it's going to work out. All right. So, um, so affordability is important, of course. So that's the next thing that you want to consider. Can you afford to actually live in that country? Some countries are very, very expensive to live. I know I've been long interested in Turks and Caicos, for example. Beautiful place, but I know it's also pretty expensive, and I don't know what laws they have there in terms of restricting you from working there, because you're not from there. So it's not a place that I would go. So, you have to weigh your options and see what works out for you. So make sure that you can afford it. I can afford to live in Guyana. If I can afford to live in the United States, of course I can afford to live in Guyana. And the reason why I'm trying to leave the United States is because I'm trying to live cheaper. I am trying to live and save more and not spend so much. Um, so even though I'll be bringing in my same salary, I would like to see that salary go towards other things, investments and savings and other things, and not necessarily spend so much on, mortgage and rent and all the daily things that you do, just to exist here in places like the United States. So, I heard the other day, and actually, it's not new to me because I do this exercise with my students all the time. But I was just looking, reminded that the Danes are the happiest people on the face of this earth, according to research. So people who are um, people who are pretty satisfied with their lives, who take time to smell the roses, so to speak, who are pretty much very um, fulfilled in terms of their economic and social status and so on. So they pretty much don't have any school loans like we do. So they go to school for free. Um, they have universal health care. They have cheaper rents, and I even heard that they pay you up to a year's salary when you give birth. And that's not only the lady, it's not only the mom that gets some sort of break. It's also the men, that the husband, that gets some relief as well. Um, and it's just all these benefits to being Dane, or being a Dane and being in that country. And it's just almost impossible to think that in countries such as the United States that we couldn't even get the relief of having $15 an hour work. A student of mine argued today and said that it would put the economy in such a bad place if we were to have $15 an hour, to just be thrown upon us, that for all these years we've been moving towards, like, for example, we've been moving towards 7.25 an hour, whatever the minimum wage is now. But we've been at that place for many, many, many years, right? Whereas the salary has been so low. But finally, we got to 7.25 an hour. I think in Florida here, I don't know why I think it's more, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know if it's universal in terms of if every state has the same amount in minimum wage, or if some states make a decision. I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do, to think about it, because New York makes more. Places like California would make more. Florida is one of those places that doesn't make as much. And whatever it is, I mean, he's still arguing, as a Floridian, he's still arguing that you cannot just jump to $15 an hour. And, because small businesses, medium sized businesses wouldn't be able to afford the affordability, and it would be killing for the small business, or the, medium-sized business owner. Maybe corporate offices and corporate companies can afford to, but certainly not the small businesses and the medium-sized businesses. And I understand where he's coming from, but when we have, on the other side of that argument is the fact that people cannot afford to live on 7.34, 25 an hour. You have a market where that tells us that pretty much, you can work three jobs and not be able to even afford to continue to pay your rent. I watch all these shows on poverty. I watch shows on all sort of issues, and you can see where single moms and even married couples are struggling to just to get by. So, the real estate market is really really disturbing. It absolutely is, and it's sad. So I'm just wondering to myself, when is this going to stop, and why can't we do something better with this minimum wage? Even if we don't jump to $15 an hour all of a sudden, can we do something better? Can we make real estate affordable so people can afford to live, and four and five family members don't have to be cooped up in an apartment or in a house just so that they can afford to exist? I personally decided to, agreed with my husband to downsize because I didn't want to pay that extensive payment every month. I think because it's just a waste of time, a waste of space, because it's just the two of us now. So why have all that space that we can't even begin to utilize properly? And can some but some families aren't as fortunate as we are. It's just like I said, it's just the two of us now. Our children are out the house, so I we can afford to move smaller, and that's what we did, right? And we are paying, for a smaller place, and that feels good. But what about families who are, stuffed together and who have decided to? Lots of families are living in Florida, where we have a large Hispanic families, and we know that generally Hispanic have, they stick together. Um, and so you will have several family members living all in one place. I think it's ridiculous that we cannot afford to venture out. And more we find that our children are coming back home to stay. My son and I was just having this conversation the other day, the one that's in Chicago in college, and he says, "Oh, you must be happy now, Mom, that I'm not coming home, again." I said, "Listen, I've been at my mom's house since I was 18 years old, and I'm a girl. I do not expect my sons to come back home." So I'm one of those parents that, literally, I don't want my kids to come back. I think that it's a terrible mistake to have, to have prepared them and then have them come back home. But if they're in a bad position and they have to come, of course, it's your kids. You're not going to push them out there and leave them. But certainly the whole ideal of it was to get them prepared so that they can fly like eagles, so that they don't have to come back home and they don't have to rely on you for the basic things. So you hope that doesn't happen, but more and more millennials are coming back to their parents' homes, and they're living with their parents, as the research shows. So we want to not put ourselves in that position. We don't want our kids back home. And that's one of the reasons why we downsize too. Let them stay where they are and let them continue to strive to strive as hard as they can. And of course, you'll help them out financially, but you don't want to be the sole bearer of their responsibilities as they get into young adulthood. It's bad training for these kids. But again, if they're in a bad position, it's okay. But not to just let them come home. By the way, I know there is a research that I read many years ago as I was doing some work for my PhD, and I know that Black women in particular tend to hold on to their sons a lot longer than any other race, and they say it's so damaging to the man's or the young man's ego. It's also derailing of his opportunities to grow and to monopolize and his power as a man, and has to realize his full potential. And so when we hold on our sons, it really doesn't do any good for them. And as a professor myself, it's very, very difficult for me to watch other Black women who just don't allow their kids to go out and do what they have to do, to go to college, to do different things, because they're so fearful. So I say, for us, we weren't afraid to let our kids go, and I wasn't afraid to let them go. We have sons, we raise men, and we raise eagles. Why keep them home? If you're not confident in your ability to raise your children, to send them out there to do what they have to do, then I don't know what to say. But it's not to say that you're a bad parent. It's just to say, consider letting your kids go. If you're listening to this and you're one of those parents who your children are getting ready for college, please do not be afraid to let them go. Let them venture out. Let them travel. Let them go to Europe. Let them go to Asia, wherever it is that they want to go. Their friends are doing it. The millennials are doing it. I encourage all of my college students to venture out, and I encourage my own kids to do the same thing. I encourage my nieces and my nephews and everyone else to do it, because so many times our black kids are being held back. And our minority kids, period, they're being held back by the fears of their parents. So we live vicariously through our children. And, if we're supposed to want for them what it is that we didn't get for ourselves. And so, if we didn't get the opportunity to travel as broadly as we wanted to, please give them that opportunity now. All right. So, just to allow them to grow is definitely important. But getting back to what I was saying before, the other thing that I want to encourage you to do is to seek out some things that you can do and make sure that you follow through while you have, in terms of transitioning or relocating to another spot. Um, for me, I do several things. So my goddaughter was just saying today that, she's just in awe of the fact that I can do so many things. But it's not that, I'm not the only person doing this stuff. I'm a New Yorker, grew up in New York. And so to do many things, or to do a lot of things all at once is not even impossible. Like we multitask like crazy. And so even though I've been away from New York City for almost 17 years, that New Yorker is still in me, that NYU student is still in me, that go getter is still in me. So I haven't stopped doing everything that I used to do. There are some things that are limited because obviously New York can afford all the conferences and all the things that we don't get here in Florida. But as soon as they come here to Florida, I jump in and I go ahead and I get on board. So make sure that you know exactly what it is that you're going to do. So for me, like I said, I was going to say actually, I do freelance work. What that means, because I have a journalism background and I used to be a journalist, I will be continuing to do freelance work. And I do my blog and so on, but I also do freelance work. That means I can make money off writing for people. I can write their biographies. I can write different things. I can write newspaper articles. I can sell my stories. So those are things that I'm going to hone back into, because I haven't been writing for a bit. Even though I do my blog, I don't do as much work as I used to do. So continuing to build on my blog that I have, which is on relationship and marriage, but also being venturing back out into writing for newspapers and magazines and selling my stories. And because Guyana offers a very unique position for me to sell all of its natural resources, in terms of where people can travel and where they can enjoy all of the beautiful landscaping and all the natural resources. And because it's an unspoiled, kind of territory, enjoying the jungles and all the different things that we have over there to enjoy, I will be writing stories on those things because I can sell them. And this can give you some idea. Listen, there's enough space for all of us. So please don't feel like as though, I'm saying something that, oh yeah, she's selling out. And no, I have always believed that transparency is key. As a journalist, I believe that. As an instructor, I believe that. As a mentor and a mentee, I believe that. So to be able to share information with other people. So please bite it if you will, because I'm always biting from other people. Don't get me wrong. All right. So definitely. So I plan to write, and I plan to write on different things that is happening there, and different places that people can travel, and bird watching areas, fishing areas. I'm going to be doing different things. So some people will blog, but I choose to write because I can make money also off selling those stories back to magazines and so on. I have already sent in for my freelance badge, meaning that because I don't work for a company, a particular news agency anymore, The next step is to, because you have to have some sort of press identification ID card. So that press ID that I sent in for will allow me to, as a freelancer, will allow me to enter into places, get interviews, and do different things while I'm overseas, either visiting or when I'm there permanent. So ways to make money, right? So you have to be a lot of things, and you have to enjoy what you do. I don't have, babies, so I can do what I want to. I got the second part of my life to do so many things. So definitely, seek out some things you can do. I'm a decorator. So I'll continue to do that. I have a small business home doing decoration and all that stuff. So I'll grow in that as well, as well as the bistro that I told you about that I'm doing. So I've got about 4 or 5 sources of incomes already coming in. So I'm not, going out there. And what I'm trying to say to you is, please don't go out there with no plans. Too many people go out there with no plans at all. Like every time we relocated, I had a plan, I had a vision, I had a way to make it work. I had a 5 year goal plan, which I always tell my students, have a 5 year goal plan, know exactly where you're going, how you're going to get there. Make sure you write down or check off all the things that you've done, and then go back and revisit that list to see what you've done, how you've accomplished it, and to make sure that you check it off. And those things that you didn't accomplish, ask yourself, well, why didn't I accomplish it? And does it matter now? Because I've already gotten to another space in my life where I probably don't need that anymore. So maybe you just cross it off your list, or you can you can seek to do something higher with that and not be at the same spot that you were originally thinking of. All right, so that is that, with just making sure you have more than one income source. If you are not a citizen of the country that you're entering into, or actually, I'm sorry, if you're not a citizen of the United States that you're exiting, and make sure that you get that straightened out first. So I am a citizen. I've been a citizen since I was about 18 years old. So I am not worried about that part. But there are people who, even though they've lived in these countries for so many years, they have not applied for their citizenship. So make sure that you have that citizenship before you leave. Do not leave without it. Now we know, based on what we find out online and research, it tells you that I think you can stay out of the country that you're a resident in for about 6 months, and after that, I think they'll take your ability to be able to travel back and forth, or they'll give you some troubles. So you don't want any troubles at all. Whatever it is that they do or don't do, you don't want to find out. Just get your citizenship done before. I do know at this point it's about a little bit over $800 to do your U.S. citizenship. So get that straightened out. That way you can live overseas for as long as you want and you don't have to worry about it. Now, for those of us with children, those people with young children, I know it may be different for you guys, because I don't know if you and your husband is together, then that shouldn't be a problem. But I think that the U.S. in general, I know after a year with my son, my oldest son, when I sent him home to Guyana when he was about 5 years old, after that year, they came looking for him. Like literally, the embassy came looking for where he was, and so of course I had to bring him back to the U.S. So I don't know if they're just like that with their boy children, or if they're with that with all of their children. I know there are situations that I heard of where one parent complains, and because he or she cannot see their children, and generally is the male that complains to the U.S. because the woman has taken the child and sent the child overseas, and now he wants to see his child. And so, of course, if he files a petition or anything like that, or some sort of claim, she has to bring that child back legally. So, but if you and your husband is together and both of you are there with your children, is that does it change, or does the situation changes? I don't know if there's something to apply for or what it is. I've never done that, so I don't know. But those of us who have done that and who will be listening to this, please, hit the comment section with what you know on this and what other people can do, because I know some of you have written to me and said your family has already moved. So please give us some and tell us what country it is, so that way we know. I have been advised, and this is, something that I'm checking into. I don't have my Guyana license, driver's license, so I've long been, saying I'm going to get one. I'm going to get one when I get there, but I never do, because I'm too busy just doing what I have to do and having, most of us go there. People pick us up, drive us around, taxis or whatever. So it's never been something that I had to do. But now that I want to move, I want to start the process early. So definitely get your driver's license there. I have collected the application, so I have it printed out, and I plan to go apply as soon as I get home this July, so that I can get my license, my Guyana license, so that when I get there, I can start driving around and get comfortable as time go on. So that's something that's important. Now, I was also told to get a passport, that I can do business there locally. Now, I'm not sure about that, so that's something that I have to investigate and see what's up with that. So if somebody knows, is it legal to get a passport over there while you still have your American passport? I mean, to have two passports, I'm kind of leery on that, or uncertain. So please, if you do know something about that, hit us up in the comment section so that we'll know what to do. But I see that it makes sense to have a local passport to do business, but is it legal to do it? That's a whole nother story. And what's wrong with using your American passport? But I did talk about before about using my American identification and then being treated a certain way. And so, for that reason, aesthetics only, I think I would probably want to use a Guyana passport just so that I can avoid, any kind of issues with people who don't appreciate your coming. Some people, there are just some people like that. I don't know why they are, but they are. So I'll investigate that some more. And if I come up with something, I'll put it in the comment section. Um, I also want to encourage everyone who's going to who's going to be moving. Number six for me, or number five for me, I'm sorry, would be to have a solid savings. Please do not go there broke. It's not cute. It's not something that is encouraged wherever we go. We want to make sure we have money. I would think that you would have money to walk with, and that you will still have an overseas account wherever the country you're living at, and that you can pull money if you need to. Please don't go. You don't want to depend on people. You don't want to have them feel like as though you come back there and you're, a burden on them. It's not fair to them anyway. But outside of that, it's just really a positive thing to be able, a good thing always to be able to have your own money. I was reading a couple of months ago something about from Dr. Maya Angelou, which is she was one of my favorite poets. And I just remembered her saying, like, listen, about 10 things or 20 things that a girl needs to have. And I will go through those one day, but certainly it's your own money. And she says to always have your own money to take a cab home just in case. And so, if you're a girl and you're listening to this, please have your own money. I know your husband probably, in many cases, your husband is the breadwinner or whatever it is, but I believe in having my own money. I want to, be able to make certain decisions, and my own money is very important to me. So I don't sit around waiting on my husband to do things or whatever. It's nothing wrong with having your own money and to feel empowered. Please, um, have some money either way. Even if you're a couple and he's the one that is financially responsible for the home and the family. Please have money. Do not go anywhere broke. If you are broke, and the reason I said this is because, believe it or not, I've been seeing several relocation YouTube videos. And in these videos, people actually went to live overseas with $1,400. My Jesus. I don't know what kind of stupid or ridiculous mindset that is. And you're thinking that you can, just because it's Africa, for example, that you can go to Africa and live 6 months, a year on $1,400. Seriously? And I heard that story over and over again. So they were between 1,400, and some people had a little bit over $2,000. And I saw where the people who were very strategic, who had a plan, who had a budget. One guy said he sold his home, his condo, and he moved to Africa, and he ended up building a place, a very small um, little home, but he has a huge land, and he plans to do the bigger project on the land. And the reason why he started that is because he doesn't want to continue to pay rent. So he decided to just build this little property on the property that he has. I mean, little house on the property that he has. And therefore, he's able to live there, sustain himself, not pay a rent, save his money. And then also, as time when he's done with that building, that little structure that he's building, he will then move on to building the bigger structure, which he plans to rent out. So, see, people, I mean, things, it has to be feasible. It has to make sense. It has to be strategically planned out. So, this whole thing about jumping and going someplace and you have no monies doesn't make any sense to me. You would go to across the United States. Well, hopefully, some people wouldn't. You wouldn't go across the United States without a plan and a budget that can sustain you. So, why try that in another country? That's just ludicrous. All right. Um, I would say connect with those who will help you navigate your remigration. So the people that can help you out. And I said this before, the people that can help you out are the people behind those countertops that you go to in the banks, and government offices, different places, people that you will get to know outside of that you can text and say, hey, can you help me? Can you give me some directions? The average person a lot of times don't know a lot of stuff, and but sometimes they'll have the hookup too. So don't discredit them. Just make sure you have the numbers for those people who can help you to navigate that remigration process. Um, don't go in trying to save everybody, because that's a mindset that so many of us Americans, because we live here, we kind of want to go in and try to save the whole country, save the whole world. We can't. It's not something that is affordable. It's not feasible. It's not smart to try to go in there with that mentality. If you want to give back to an area, which, for me, I see building my business and putting people to work is one way of giving back outside of my program. But my programs are now in public schools, so I don't have to sustain those programs through finances anymore. I used to have one program which I used to have to, where I financed for years, and it wasn't a problem, that I had by my grandma's house, and that wasn't an issue. I hired teachers, I did music, I did so many things, like I said before, but now I moved that program into a public school. It's free for all students, but I don't have to pay to maintain it either. All right. So, again, don't go there trying to save everybody, because everybody will have a sad story, and everybody will make you think that you need to help them out, and everybody will make you feel like if you are the savior of the world, and you're not Jesus, you're not walking on water. So to try to not get into that mindset of wanting to help everybody, because then if you have lost focus on you and what you're there to do, you can easily become part of that population that you don't want to enter into. All right. You should always try to, just navigate above, and try to help, put people to work, but they're working for their money. If you have a business or whatever, if you can afford to, because I hire the little kids in the area all the time by my grandma's house. I hire them to, and I pay them, I pay them money, but it's not as much money. It's their kids. They bring water. They do different things. They help clean the yard. They help sweep. They do different things. They wash on my furnitures that I rent. They're 12, 13 years old. Sometimes so the little ones come in and want to get a little money. So I don't stop them. It's just a little housework. So they come in as long as it's not too many kids, because then they drive me nuts. Um, I have to send them home sometimes, feed them and send them home. Like, okay, just go home to your moms, just leave me alone. But I love having them around. But at the same time, they can drive you nuts. So anyway, but I will hire those kids. So stuff like that, little things that you do that still impacts the community. It's good, but don't try to save everyone. The other thing is understand the culture that you're going into and make sure that you accept it. Make sure that you're open to it, and don't get caught up in it. It's normal things to for so many cultures where, for example, they sleep in the daytime. Like in Guyana, I find that they sleep in the daytime. Like they'll go to do whatever they have to do, and that's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, they go to sleep. And I'm like, okay. So when I go home, my cousin would say, said a few times to me, "Hey, did you want to come sleep?" And I'm like, no, will never, ever, you don't ever catch a nap during the day. It's encouraged by so many psychiatrists and psychologists and who say it's okay to catch a few minutes nap. And, it's healthy. There's nothing wrong with that. But culturally, you're not supposed, in this culture, we don't do that. We don't just go to sleep during the daytime like a normal thing. That's every once in a while kind of thing. You take a nap if you don't have, and I find that of course during COVID I've slept more during the daytime, but even so I try to stay out for the most part. I'm up, I'm doing something. All right, so that's something that I don't want to fall into, because they said that I was listening to a program the other day, and the guy says, "Well, listen, this whole idea about sleeping for 8 hours," he says, "You know what? When you're over there sleeping your asses off, some millionaire is out here at 2 o'clock in the morning trying to work on how to you out of your money." So you know what? I really do believe that that's this oh the sleeping is overrated. And I had a friend many years ago, don't know where he is today, but many years ago when I was a teenager and started working, and Jamaican guy, and he says, I said, "You don't ever sleep." He was a trucker. And he says, "Nah, because sleeping is practice in death." He says, "I'm not ready for that yet." So um apparently for him, that's the way he saw it, right? So he didn't see sleeping as something he needed to do like that. So as a trucker, he was always on the road, and he just felt like he needed to be up. All right, okay. So for me, I think I need to be up most of the times. I rarely do sleep for 8 hours. I'm always doing something. Um, but when my body is tired, it goes to sleep. Trust me, I don't have a problem sleeping. It's just that I force myself to stay up so I can get things done. Look for a safe place. That's my number 9 tip. Tip is look for a safe living space. Learn about your community. Learn about the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Don't be standoffish. That means that the people in those cultures hate us Americans who go back home and act like some what they say, we act like we better. Um, so we don't want to do that. We don't want to act standoffish. But then again, you don't want to, you know, I don't know. I mean, even here in the U.S., I'm not good with neighbors. I stay away from people a lot, because I feel like as though neighbors eventually you and them will go at it for something that they either do and or you don't like, or they don't like what you do. And so before we have to be friends and then be enemies, just let's not be friends in the first place. So I mean, that means I'll respect you, I'll say hello, good morning. You will say our goodbyes if we're going into our cars or whatever. That said, we don't need to be all on each other. But then again, we're not rude. We're just pretty much very diplomatic. Get the business done in terms of mannerism, and then you keep moving. So either way, with that said, so find a space where you're comfortable, find a space where you can be cultured, find a space where you can be acceptable in the population, but and don't stand off to the side. But then again, be diplomatic in terms of how you handle your life, how you handle your business. I don't think we need to go there and change completely into the culture, because we're bringing part of our culture, which is the American culture, with us. And I think part of our culture has already taught us how to be successful, and how to have successful relationships, and how to be successful socially and economically and so on. So do we want to leave that behind? I don't think so. But adapting to the new culture, there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think we need to leave. And there is a theorist that argues that in order to be totally cultured, that you need to leave your culture behind, and you need, in order to be fully assimilated into the new culture, you have to leave your culture behind and adapt to the new culture. And many years ago, when people came to America, um, we're talking about the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. With migration to America, a lot of people came here and left their culture behind, and left their language behind, and all that kind of stuff. So early migration saw people who were pretty much wanting to not be Italian as much, or not be Greek as much, and coming to America meant that you have to become Americanized, and that you have to adapt to the language, and and being and to be considered American means you have to leave all that culture that you once had behind. And so is not true today. When we came here, we suffered greatly, because we were Caribbean kids with deep Caribbean accent. Notice that I never left my accent, right? Because you can hear it. Um, I never wanted to. I have always wanted to just continue to embrace who I am as an individual. And so, even though there were plenty of opportunities for me to sound absolutely different than I do, I didn't want that. I just want you to be able to understand what I'm saying, but I don't need to sound completely outside of what I am. And so that Guyanese culture, that Guyanese accent, I have long maintained it. I've never left it, because I've always found that it's a blessing to have, and I have many reasons why I would say that to you. Um, but I'm not going to get into it, because it has to do with so many hurtful things that we can experience in this culture that we live in the United States of America. Anyways, so with that said, let me see what else. I think for those of us who are progressives, we have this mindset that will allow us to adapt to new environments, and so we don't need to leave our environment, our culture behind. So we can go into back into Guyanese culture and be able to fully adapt into it without any problems. And especially for someone like me, even though I've left there so many years ago, I have never left Guyana. It's in my heart. I've always been going back. My grandpa and grandma took me back when I was came at about 15. I think I was back by 16. That following year, I went right back to Guyana, in which a lot of my fellow friends didn't have that opportunity. Their parents never took them back early. They waited all the way until, a lot of them waited for years in the 80s when we first came here. To go back home. Some, like my husband, didn't go home for 24, 25 years before he finally went back about 7 years ago. So I was very fortunate to have my grandparents who took me back right away. And so after that, I've never stopped going. I always continue to go, because I've always, that's just part of me. All right. So I was fortunate enough to continue, and I appreciate that. And I still appreciate my grandparents for taking me back. But one of the things that they did with me is that when I came, I got a summer job. And so for those of us who are taking our young kids back. One of the things that my grandparents did is that they told me that if I saved my money, that they would buy me the ticket, but I would have to buy my own clothes and so on. So I got a summer job, because purposefully, so I can get all my fancy little clothes that I wanted, and I bought all my clothes. And once I bought it, I told them, and then they bought me the ticket, and I was able to go back with them. And so right away they were teaching me something outside of what I thought. And I never it's a less I don't think I stopped working ever since then. So that was my first summer job at Summer Youth in New York. And my cousin Donette, God rest her soul, she's no longer with us. She passed away about 2 years ago. Um, very young, but she passed away. We have the same name, so I'm her namesake. So, but my cousin Donette got me that job, and like she did with her sisters and so on, because she was the older cousin or the older sister, so she had to lead the way for all the rest of us cousins, and so she got us all jobs as we were coming up. And I saved my money and got my clothes and was able to go home and continued working since, never stopped. All right. Then the final thing that I want to tell you, um, well, two things. Finally, ship everything that you can. Please do not go there and try to expect the same quality of stuff that you get here in the US. Ship everything that you can. And that's one of the reasons why, because I refuse to go there and pay money for things that literally isn't the quality that I am accustomed to. So I'll be shipping my stuff. Everything that I can, I will be shipping. And those things that I can't ship, I'll donate to, whichever organizations I choose. There are tons of them that I can choose. Salvation Army, different places. No place that sells back my stuff, and so I don't know. Salvation Army does a lot, and they do sell back stuff, but they do a lot also. All right, so I'll figure it out because I'm always giving to charity. That's something that I do all the time on a normal basis. So let's see, but definitely take your stuff with you. I just priced the other day some stoves and some refrigerator. I have to have two refrigerator for the bistro that I'm opening up, and so I need a commercial one and I need a regular one for the kitchen, probably a double door. So I was pricing it the other day, and the pricing isn't so much different from the U.S. So I decided that instead of shipping all that stuff, I can just go to Courts and I can buy it from there. That will save me probably $400 because you have to think about shipping, then you have to think about the taxes on it and all that stuff, and then the traveling from Georgetown to Linden and all that stuff. So why not just buy it at Courts and have them deliver it? And so Courts is where I will go. I've called them, and then I went on their website, and I already saw what I want. I know the pricing. So between the two, all three, I think it's three equipments that I need from them, or three. I need one stove. I need two refrigerators, and I think that's it. But anyway, that's going to run me maybe about a little bit under $3,000 to get the ones that I want. 3,000 USD. So I will purchase there instead of worrying about shipping those things from here. There are just certain things that doesn't make sense, that doesn't add up. When I tell you I'm shipping certain things, I mean things that are already in my home that I'm shipping. So that means all my stuff that I have here and the quality that I'm accustomed to are things that I want there. And so I know there are going to be more things added as I build my home. And I think at that point, I'm going to decide what I want to buy locally. But in terms of my furnitures, I will definitely ship from overseas because there are things that I would want that Guyana wouldn't be able to suffice in terms of their building and the kind of aesthetics that they have there is not for me. It's not my liking, so I wouldn't want to go that route. So I would ship my furnitures. And as a decorator, interior designer, it's kind of hard for me to just settle for any kind of quality work. And it's not to say that they don't do good work. I'm not knocking on anyone, please. That's not where I'm headed. I just mean like there's certain quality that I like, and I have more of a open market here where I can buy from different vendors, and of course, much more quality. So I'm going to be more than likely even coming back here to shop for my home. Um, and then the final thing I want to add is get a gun license. If you're going back to do business, do not go there. Get a gun license here before you leave so that way it will be an easier process for you to get one there. Don't try to go get one there and you don't even have one here. um, it's not a hard process. I've already found out about it. So you can get it, but you just have to go through the formalities. and to make sure. Now, I don't know if you can open carry and all that stuff. I don't think so. Like in the United States or in Florida, we can open carry. So I'm talking about a gun license for your business, and so that and for your home. Um, I will be going to the range because I'm gonna learn how to shoot straight. Okay, telling y'all, I'm not sleeping on these people. These you become a target when when you have business anywhere in the world. I think, for most parts of the world, I should say. So we want to, I don't want to, be foolish and say, okay, everything is going to be good. I will get my gun license. I mean, in Guyana as well, right? So that means I will be. I need to sharpen my shooting skills. So and um, finally, the way I would say it is this is that hang with people, the caliber of friends and people that you choose to be with, and in your new location should add up to the quality and caliber of friends that you would have here. There's certain caliber of friends that I hang around with, and I have no plans on stepping down. So that means I can respect people, I can love people, I can treat them well, which I always do. But in terms of people who are eagles and who are flying and who are doing what they have to, I want to make sure that I start hanging with those people, because the key is to remember that when you hang with these people, I just want to add this really, really intently. When you hang out with people who are flying high, you have no choice than to fly higher than you already are. So please, try to grow that caliber of friends. And even if you don't consider them friends, business associates, um, whatever it is that you call them, people that you can rely on that are in places to help you get where you want to go. So hopefully these tips will work for you as well as it's worked for me. And I'm finding that everything that I told you today, not only has it worked for me in the past, but it's working for me now as I, get ready to do my transformation. And when I get there, there'll be a whole bunch of other rules that I'll have to follow as well. But I am not going to get rid of these rules. They're going to continue on because I cannot afford to have mishaps along the way that will put me flat on my face. There is no room for failure. The world is nasty, and people will watch you and laugh at you. And so when you go in, you have to go in with great intentions and to know that, your, missteps. And even though sometimes we will fail at something, doesn't mean that I'm telling you you're never going to fail. We're all going to fail at something at one point or next. But to be able to get back up is what I'm talking about, and to have another plan in case something fails. But not such big failures. At this time in life, at 40 something years old, you can't afford to have these major failures that will put you flat on your face. It's not an option. So you got to work at this. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, all my tips will help someone or help you to navigate this process of relocation. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming to my live once again, and we'll catch up. Bye bye. I'm Donette once again, and welcome to my live. Bye bye.